The gamma radiation had torn through dimensions before, but Bruce Banner had never felt reality break quite like this. The dimensional fabric shattered above a battlefield of trampled grass and spilled blood, vomiting green fire and a screaming man into air that tasted of ancient death and older magic. The Hulk emerged mid-transformation, skin already shifting from tan to emerald as his body hit the ground at terminal velocity. Gamma energy traced through the impact crater, scorching patterns into Earth that had witnessed 10,000 years of war. The creature roared, a sound that made reality itself recoil as muscles expanded exponentially, bones thickened, and rational thought drowned beneath a tide of pure rage. This wasn't Earth. Banner's fragmenting consciousness knew that immediately. The wrongness saturated everything. A sky too blue for modern atmosphere. Mountains in the distance that seemed painted rather than geological. Distant structures of white stone that defied modern architecture. But more importantly, the rage here was overwhelming. Thousands of souls screaming in the back of his expanding mind, layer upon layer of murder and cruelty and desperate survival. Orcs and men and things in between, all contributing to a psychic miasma of violence that fed directly into the Hulk's transformation. The creature stood fully formed now. 9 feet of green muscle and barely contained fury. Fists the size of watermelons clenched and unclenched as he surveyed this strange realm. Pelennor Fields, though he didn't know the name yet. A dimension where darkness literally had form, where evil wore a tower's shape, where the fate of all free peoples would be decided through steel and blood. The kind of place that made the Hulk hungry. In the distance, he spotted armies. Thousands of creatures in black armor, siege towers taller than skyscrapers, elephants the size of buildings with warriors riding their backs. And closer, much closer, something was watching him. Multiple somethings. The Hulk's eyes narrowed as figures emerged from the trampled battlefield. Orcs, Mordor's frontline troops, 12 of them, curved blades drawn, tusks protruding from twisted faces, eyes that had never known mercy. They had been pursuing fleeing Gondorian soldiers when the dimensional rift opened. And now they approached this green intruder with the confidence of predators who'd never known fear. The lead orc snarled something in black speech, his voice guttural and hostile. The Hulk tilted his massive head, gamma-powered hearing processing the unfamiliar language. He didn't understand the words, but the Hulk understood intent perfectly. These creatures meant to kill him, drag his body to their master, claim glory through his defeat. "Wrong move," the Hulk said, his voice like mountains grinding together. The orcs charged. The Hulk's fist shot forward with the sound of a cannon firing, connecting with the lead orc's chest. The creature's armor crumpled like aluminum foil. His rib cage exploded outward. His body launched backward at impossible speed, crashing through 2 of his companions before embedding itself in the ground 30 feet away. The impact crater was 6 feet wide. 2 more orcs lunged simultaneously, blades aimed for the Hulk's neck and chest. He caught one blade bare-handed, the metal shattering in his grip like glass. The other blade struck his chest and bounced off with a metallic clang, the weapon's edge now completely dulled against gamma-hardened skin. The Hulk's free hand shot out, gripping the second orc's face. His fingers closed. The skull crumbled with a wet crunch. The creature had just enough time to scream before the Hulk threw him at the remaining orcs like a bowling ball at pins. 3 went down in a tangle of limbs and broken bones. The surviving 6 hesitated. That was fatal. The Hulk clapped his hands together. The thunderclap detonated across the battlefield with the force of a bomb. A shockwave of compressed air and gamma radiation exploded outward in a perfect sphere. Grass flattened for 50 feet in all directions. The orcs closest to the blast were liquefied instantly, their bodies unable to withstand the pressure differential. The ones further out were simply launched backward, tumbling through the air like leaves in a hurricane, hitting the ground already dead from internal hemorrhaging. 30 seconds. That's how long it took to reduce 12 of Mordor's warriors to paste and broken bodies. The Hulk stood in the center of a circle of destruction, fists still clenched, chest heaving with breaths that had nothing to do with exertion, and everything to do with barely contained fury. The gamma radiation processed what it had just learned through Banner's fragmenting awareness. These warriors were guilty of countless murders, but they served a purpose beyond simple malice. They followed orders from rulers. They fought for survival in a universe where might literally made right. Complicated guilt, layered motivation, interesting. A horn sounded across the battlefield, pure and clear, cutting through the chaos. The Hulk's head snapped toward the sound. A figure approached on horseback, white robes marked with strange symbols, a staff that radiated power Banner's scientific mind couldn't classify, and a pointed hat that would have been comical if not for the absolute authority radiating from the old man beneath it. Gandalf the White, though the Hulk didn't know the name. The wizard who'd orchestrated the defense of Middle-earth, who'd faced the Balrog and returned stronger, who'd been sent by the Valor themselves to combat Sauron's darkness. And he approached the green giant with the casual confidence of someone who'd witnessed the world's creation and found it wanting. "Extraordinary," Gandalf said, his voice carrying a depth that suggested centuries of experience. "A creature of considerable power. Tell me, what are you? Which of the Ainur spawned you, or are you perhaps a corruption of the Maiar, twisted by some dark sorcery I've not encountered?" The Hulk's eyes narrowed, gamma-fueled aggression meeting supernatural scrutiny. When he spoke, the words carried the weight of pure rage barely held in check. "Hulk is Hulk, not spawn, not corruption, strongest there is." Gandalf's eyes widened fractionally. This being spoke had intelligence, claimed supremacy with the confidence of someone who'd proven it repeatedly. And more concerning, the wizard's supernatural senses detected no corruption, no mark of Morgoth or Sauron, no taint of the shadow. This creature was something else entirely, something that shouldn't exist in Ilúvatar's creation. "You are not of this world," Gandalf said. It wasn't a question. "Not of Middle-earth, not of any realm I know. You carry power that predates our conflicts, our very cosmology." The wizard's staff glowed with white light, ready to defend or attack depending on the creature's response. "I ask again, with courtesy and some urgency given the battle raging around us. What are you and why have you come to Pelennor Fields?" The Hulk took a step forward, the ground cracking beneath his weight. Banner's consciousness pushed through the rage for a moment, forcing coherence. "Didn't choose to come. Pulled through. Dimension broke." The words came harder as anger surged again. "But Hulk sees evil, smells death, thousands dying." His massive fist clenched. "Dark Tower. Hulk smash Dark Tower." Before Gandalf could respond, reality shifted. The air pressure changed. A shadow fell across them despite the midday sun. Both wizard and gamma monster looked up to see something that made even the Hulk pause. A Nazgul descended from the sky, mounted on a fell beast whose wings blocked out the sun. The Ringwraith's crown marked him as their lord, the Witch-king of Angmar, the greatest of Sauron's servants, the terror that had broken the North Kingdom, whose very presence brought despair so profound that mortal hearts stopped beating. His sword, forged in sorcery and cooled in poison, pointed directly at the green intruder. "What is this?" The Witch King's voice carried the cold of the grave, words that caused Gandalf's horse to rear in terror. "This creature reeks of power unknown, of energies that predate even the undying lands. Sorcery? Corruption? Or merely another champion for the doomed forces of the West?" The Hulk looked up at the flying creature, at the armored figure radiating death and despair, at the sword meant to fill hearts with terror. Banner felt the psychological assault, the crushing weight of supernatural dread meant to paralyze enemies. The Hulk felt rage increase. "Puny ghost, man," the Hulk said, his voice rising to a roar. "Hulk smash puny ghost man." He crouched, muscles coiling with potential energy, then leaped. The ground exploded beneath him as he launched upward at impossible velocity. 50 feet, 75 feet, 100 feet straight up, defying gravity through sheer muscular force and gamma-powered physics violations. The Witch-king barely had time to register surprise before the Hulk's fist connected with the fell beast's jaw. The flying creature's head snapped to the side with enough force to shatter its neck vertebrae. It dropped from the sky like a stone, the Witch-king tumbling from his saddle. The Hulk caught the ring-wraith mid-fall, one massive hand closing around the ancient armor. They plummeted together, the Hulk deliberately positioning himself beneath the Witch-king. They hit the ground with earth-shattering impact, the Hulk using the Nazgul as a cushion. The crater was 15 feet deep, dust and debris exploded outward. The Witch-king struggled in the Hulk's grip, black smoke pouring from his armor, spectral energy trying to drain life force that didn't exist in any conventional sense. "You cannot destroy me. No man can kill me. Prophecy forbids it. I am death eternal, servant of—" "Hulk, not man!" The roar shook the battlefield. "Hulk, strongest there is!" The Hulk raised the Witch-king overhead and brought him down across his knee. The ancient armor cracked. The spectral form within flickered. Then the Hulk threw the ringwraith at the approaching orc army like a missile. The Witch-king crashed through the front ranks, bowling over dozens of soldiers before his fell beast's corpse fell from the sky and landed on top of him. Gandalf stared. In 3,000 years of fighting Sauron's darkness, he'd never seen anyone simply grab the Witch-king and use him as a projectile weapon. The wizard's mind raced through implications. This creature, Hulk, operated on rules outside Middle-earth's cosmic order. Prophecies meant nothing. Supernatural dread bounced off him, and his power seemed to grow with anger rather than diminish with exhaustion. "Hulk," Gandalf said carefully, his staff lowering slightly. "The Dark Tower you mentioned. The enemy we face is called Sauron. He seeks to enslave all free peoples, to cover the world in shadow eternal. His armies number in the hundreds of thousands. His power is ancient and terrible. We need warriors of strength and conviction." The wizard's eyes met the Hulk's, measuring, assessing. "Can you fight beside us? Can you control your rage enough to distinguish friend from foe?" The Hulk's chest heaved. Banner's consciousness surged forward, forcing clarity through the gamma fog. "Can control. Have to control. Learned the hard way." His fists unclenched slightly. "Banner knows control, Hulk knows smashing. Together we protect." Before Gandalf could respond, another horn sounded. This one was answered by dozens of others across the battlefield. The Rohirrim charge had begun. 6,000 horsemen descended from the ridge, lances gleaming, the thunder of hooves shaking the earth. At their head rode Theoden King, ancient yet fierce, leading his people in what might be their final ride. And between the charging cavalry and the gates of Minas Tirith stood Sauron's army. 50,000 orcs, war trolls 30 feet tall, wielding clubs the size of tree trunks. Mumakil Oliphants, with war towers on their backs, each beast capable of crushing entire battalions. And now, reforming near his fallen mount, the Witch-king himself, spectral form blazing with renewed fury. "They'll be slaughtered," Banner's voice emerged, more coherent now. "The math doesn't work. 6,000 against 50,000 with siege weapons and monsters." His eyes focused on Gandalf. "You need You need force multiplication. You need something they can't counter through numbers." "Indeed," Gandalf said grimly. "We need a miracle. We need—" "Hulk smash," the creature interrupted, a smile spreading across his massive face. It wasn't a pleasant expression. "Hulk smash lots. Make armies small. Make monsters smaller." The wizard studied the green giant for a long moment. This being had arrived through dimensional chaos, had destroyed an orc patrol in seconds, had physically assaulted the Witch-king and survived. The risks of unleashing such power were immense, but the alternative was watching Gondor fall, Rohan break, and Middle-earth descend into endless night. "Very well," Gandalf said finally. "But Hulk, listen carefully. The riders approaching, the men on horses, they are our allies. The White City behind us holds our people. Only strike the orcs, the trolls, the great beasts. Can you remember that? Can Banner keep you focused?" The Hulk's eyes flickered between green fury and human awareness. Banner's consciousness wrestled with the rage, establishing parameters, creating targets. "Smash! Black armor! Smash big monsters! Smash ugly ones!" His fist pounded into his palm. "Protect horse people! Protect White City!" "Close enough," Gandalf muttered. He raised his staff, white light blazing. "Then let us remind Sauron that Middle-earth has allies he never anticipated. Ride with me, Hulk. We go to war." The wizard's horse galloped toward the Rohirrim charge. The Hulk ran beside him, each stride covering 20 feet, his speed building until he matched the cavalry's pace. Riders near them shouted in alarm, then wonder, as they realized the green giant ran with them, not against them. Theoden King saw the creature approaching, saw Gandalf's signal of alliance, and made a split-second decision that would echo through the ages. He raised his sword, voice carrying across the charging host. "Forth Eorlingas," 6,000 voices answered, and among them one that shook the earth itself. "Hulk smash!" The two armies collided in a crash of steel and flesh and bone, but at the point of impact, where the Rohirrim's lances met Mordor's front line, there was something new. Something the orcs had no defense against, something their generals had never trained them to face. The Hulk hit the orc army like a meteor. His first leap carried him 50 feet into the enemy ranks. He landed with both fists driving into the ground. The impact created a shockwave that launched orcs in all directions like rag dolls. Before they landed, the Hulk was moving. His fist caught an orc captain in the chest, the blow continuing through the body and into the 3 soldiers behind him. All 4 died instantly, their organs pulped by transferred kinetic energy. An orc pikeman thrust his weapon at the Hulk's back, the blade shattered against gamma-hardened skin. The Hulk spun, his backhand catching the orc across the face with enough force to separate his head from his shoulders. The body fell. The head sailed 100 yards before landing in the Witch-king's reforming position. A war troll charged, its massive club swinging down with crushing force. The Hulk caught the club one-handed. The troll's eyes widened in shock. Nothing should have been able to stop that strike. The Hulk pulled, yanking the troll off balance, then drove his other fist into the creature's knee. Bone shattered. The troll collapsed, screaming. The Hulk picked up the fallen troll by its ankle and began using it as a weapon. He swung the 30-foot creature like a baseball bat, clearing a path through the orc ranks. Bodies flew, armor crumpled. Soldiers who'd stood firm against cavalry charges broke and fled before this impossible green demon who used their own monsters as clubs. Around him, the Rohirrim pressed their advantage. Wherever the Hulk created chaos, horsemen followed, lances and swords finding gaps in enemy lines. Theoden fought with renewed vigor, seeing his desperate gamble paying off beyond all expectation. Eomer led cavalry wings to exploit the openings the Hulk created. and from the walls of Minas Tirith, defenders watched in stunned awe as one creature turned the tide of battle. But Sauron's forces numbered in the tens of thousands. For every 100 orcs the Hulk killed, more pressed forward. War machines continued their bombardment. Mumakil crashed through Rohirrim formations, their size and armor too much for conventional warriors. And in the center of it all, the Witch-king rose again, mounted on a new fell beast, his attention now focused entirely on the green aberration disrupting his perfect victory. Gandalf saw the ring-wraiths approach. "Hulk! Above!" The Gamma monster looked up to see the Witch-king diving, his cursed blade aimed at the creature's skull. The weapon could kill with a touch, could poison the soul itself, had slain warriors whose names were legend. The Hulk leaped to meet him. They collided in mid-air, the Witch-king's blade driving toward the Hulk's chest while massive green hands closed around the fell beast's wings. For a moment they hung suspended, defying gravity through mutual combat. Then the Hulk's grip tightened. The fell beast's wings crumpled like paper. He pulled, tearing them free from the creature's body. They fell together, spinning. The Witch-king tried to teleport, to phase away, but the Hulk's grip on his armor prevented it. Some quality of gamma radiation interfered with spectral manipulation. They hit the ground in another crater, this one 20 feet deep. The Witch-king rose, black smoke pouring from his armor, spectral form more visible now as his physical anchor weakened. "You dare lay hands upon one of the nine, upon the greatest of..." The Hulk punched him. The first blow cracked the ancient helmet, the second shattered the breastplate. The third went through where the Witch-king's chest would be if he still had physical form, disrupting spectral energy that had persisted for 3,000 years. "Talk too much," the Hulk growled. "All bad guys talk too much." Banner's consciousness pushed through. "The ring. He has one of the 9 rings. Has to be destroyed or he'll just reform." The Hulk's hand shot out faster than the Witch-king could react and grabbed the spectral form's hand. He squeezed. The invisible ring resisted, ancient sorcery trying to preserve it, but gamma radiation cared nothing for Sauron's enchantments. The ring cracked, then shattered. Fragments of gold and malice dissolved into mist. The Witch-king's scream wasn't sound but psychic agony. His form began unraveling, 3,000 years of unlife collapsing without the ring's anchor. No, not like this. Prophecy said, no man. Hulk, not man. The Gamma monster watched dispassionately as the greatest of the Nazgul dissolved into smoke and memory. Hulk is Hulk. Across the battlefield, every servant of Sauron felt their master's lieutenant fall. Orcs faltered, trolls hesitated. Even the Mumakil seemed uncertain. Gandalf seized the moment, his staff blazing with light, his voice carrying across the field through supernatural amplification. "The Witch-king is fallen! Press the attack! For Gondor, for Rohan, for all free peoples!" The defenders surged forward with renewed hope, but the Hulk saw something the others didn't. His enhanced senses, designed to track threats across dimensional barriers, detected wrongness in the fabric of reality. Someone was watching. Someone was pulling strings. The battle wasn't random chaos, it was orchestrated. And the conductor was about to make his presence known. The sky darkened despite the afternoon sun. A portal opened above Minas Tirith, not a rift like the one that had brought the Hulk here, but deliberate manipulation. Through it stepped a figure that made even the Hulk pause. Sauron himself, or rather a projection of his will given semi-physical form. The Dark Lord hadn't manifested directly on a battlefield since Isildur cut the ring from his hand 3,000 years ago. But this green abomination had destroyed his lieutenant, disrupted his carefully laid plans, and threatened to turn his certain victory into chaotic defeat. The figure stood 30 feet tall, armored in black metal that seemed to absorb light, eyes that burned with malevolent, intelligence focused entirely on the Hulk. When Sauron spoke, his voice carried the weight of ages, of empires built and broken, of will so absolute it had bent entire races to its purpose. "You are an anomaly," Sauron said, each word resonating with power. "Not of this creation, not subject to its rules, but still subject to dominion. I am Sauron, Lord of the Earth, master of the One Ring, wielder of power that shaped this world's mountains and seas. Kneel, creature, and I will give you purpose. Serve me, and I will channel your rage toward worthy targets, entire kingdoms for you to destroy, endless enemies for you to crush, power beyond your primitive comprehension." The offer hung in the air. Gandalf tensed, ready to intervene if necessary. The Rohirrim watched, hoping the Green Warrior wouldn't turn on them. And deep within the Hulk's mind, Banner wrestled with the implications. "He's offering you exactly what you want," Banner's consciousness whispered to the Gamma monster. "Endless fighting. No more pretending to be human, no more hiding. Just smashing forever." The Hulk was silent for a long moment, looking up at Sauron's manifestation. Then he spoke, his voice carrying across the battlefield with devastating clarity. "Had bad guys offer Hulk stuff before. Red Skull offered power. Leader offered purpose. Abomination offered brotherhood. His fists clenched, muscles bulging. All bad guys, all liars, all want to use Hulk." He took a step towards Sauron's projection, the ground cracking beneath his weight. But Hulk learned. Hulk not weapon, Hulk not slave. Another step, gamma radiation crackling around him like green lightning. Hulk is hero. Hulk protects people. Hulk smashes bad guys. His eyes blazed brighter, fury building to unprecedented levels. "And you big bad guy, worst bad guy, make armies, kill thousands, burn cities." The Hulk's roar shook the heavens. "Hulk smash bad guy!" He leaped, propelling himself at Sauron's projection with every ounce of gamma-powered strength. The Dark Lord raised his hand, dark energy gathering, prepared to swat this insect from the sky. But the Hulk had fought gods before, had battled Thor in his own realm, had gone toe-to-toe with Thanos himself. A Dark Lord from another dimension, powerful as he was, wasn't the strongest thing the Hulk had ever punched. His fist connected with Sauron's projection at the speed of sound. The Dark Lord's magical construct shattered, unable to withstand the purely physical assault delivered with metaphysical force. Sauron's scream of rage echoed across Middle-earth as his manifestation dissolved, his consciousness forcibly ejected back to Barad-dûr. And in that moment, every orc, every troll, every servant of Sauron on Pelennor Fields felt their master's attention torn away, felt his will fragment, felt the absolute certainty of victory crumble into chaos. The army broke. It wasn't orderly retreat. It wasn't tactical withdrawal. 50,000 orcs simply fled, dropping weapons, abandoning war machines, stampeding over each other in their desperation to escape. The Mumakil, no longer controlled by handlers who'd been trampled in the rout, rampaged in confusion. Trolls fought each other, their limited intelligence unable to process the sudden collapse of command structure. The Rohirrim pursued, cutting down fleeing enemies. Gondorian troops poured from the city gates, joining the counterattack. And at the center of it all, the Hulk stood in his crater, fists still clenched, watching as the army that should have destroyed Middle-earth fled in terror. Theoden King rode up, his armor dented, his sword bloody, but his eyes bright with victory. He looked down at the Hulk with an expression mixing awe and wariness. "Warrior of green skin and mighty strength, you have this day saved Gondor, saved Rohan, perhaps saved all free peoples from slavery eternal." He raised his sword in salute. "I know not from what realm you hail, but you have my gratitude and my respect." The Hulk looked up at the old king, and some of Banner's intelligence flickered through. "Hulk, help. Bad guys hurt people. Hulk stops bad guys." His massive chest heaved, Is what heroes do. Gandalf approached, his staff dim now, exhaustion evident despite his immortal nature. Indeed, though I must say your definition of stopping is rather more emphatic than most. The wizard's eyes held concern mixed with curiosity. But Hulk, the battle is won here. Sauron's projection is banished, his lieutenant destroyed, his army scattered. However, the Dark Lord himself remains. He sits in Barad-dûr, and while the ring exists, he cannot truly be defeated. Then Hulk, go to Dark Tower, the Gamma monster said simply. Smash Tower, smash Dark Lord, problem solved. If only it were that simple, a new voice interjected. Aragorn emerged from the city gates flanked by Gimli and Legolas. The ranger looked at the Hulk with the assessment of someone who'd learned to judge threats over decades of combat. The tower itself is reinforced by ancient sorcery. Armies have tried to breach it for millennia, and Sauron's power in his own fortress is immeasurable. Hulk, measurable, the creature replied. Hulk, count to smash. 1 smash, 2 smash, 3 smash. His fist pounded into his palm with each count. However many smashes needed. Hulk, do. Gimli laughed, a sound of genuine appreciation. Well, he's got the right attitude at least. What say you, Legolas? Think our green friend could make it to Barad-dûr? The elf studied the Hulk with ancient eyes. He moves without grace, fights without elegance, and speaks without poetry. Yet, Legolas's gaze turned toward the destroyed orc army, the shattered war machines, the crater where the Witch-king had fallen. He achieved in minutes what we could not in hours. Perhaps inelegance has its merits. The question isn't whether he could reach Barad-dûr, Gandalf interjected. The question is whether he should. Sauron's fortress is a trap designed for exactly this kind of direct assault. Gates within gates, armies within armies, and the Dark Lord's full attention focused on anyone who breaches the outer walls. The wizard turned to the Hulk. You would be facing hundreds of thousands of orcs, all of Mordor's remaining trolls and siege beasts, and Sauron himself with no limitations on his power. Even your remarkable strength might falter. The Hulk's response was to punch the ground. The impact created a localized earthquake, cracking the earth for 100 yards. Hulk, never falter. Hulk, strongest there is. Hulk, smashed through armies before, smashed through more armies now. Banner's consciousness surged forward, forcing more coherent speech. But tactical. Need tactical. Can't just wade through entire country of enemies. Need... The struggle between rage and reason played across the Hulk's face. Need plan. Aragorn stepped forward. Then let us make a plan. The One Ring is being carried to Mount Doom by a hobbit named Frodo. If he succeeds, if the ring is destroyed, Sauron falls regardless of his armies or his power. Our task is to give Frodo time, to keep Sauron's attention away from the true threat. Distraction, Banner managed. Use Hulk as distraction. Hulk attacks tower. Sauron focuses on Hulk. Hobbit destroys ring. His eyes flickered between green and human. Good plan. Hulk, good at distraction. Always gets blamed for things anyway. The journey will be perilous, Gandalf warned. Mordor's interior is a wasteland of ash and fire. The air itself is poisonous. Armies patrol constantly. And if Sauron realizes you're merely a distraction, he'll crush you and redirect attention to finding the ring. The Hulk grinned, an expression that made hardened warriors step back. Then Hulk be really good distraction, make so much noise, so much smashing bad guy can't ignore. His fists pounded together. When Hulk smash, everybody pays attention. Over the next hour, as the sun set on Pelennor Fields and refugees returned to Minas Tirith, a war council convened. Aragorn spread maps of Mordor, tracing paths to Barad-dûr. Gandalf outlined Sauron's defensive strategies and known troop deployments. Legolas and Gimli debated the merits of stealth versus direct assault, with the Hulk firmly on one side of that argument. The plan took shape. The Hulk would be accompanied by a force of Gondor's and Rohan's best warriors, enough to seem like a genuine assault, but not enough to threaten Minas Tirith's defense. They would march directly to the Black Gate, demand entry, and when refused, as they certainly would be, the Hulk would make an entrance. Literally, through the gates, through the armies beyond, creating such catastrophic destruction that Sauron would have no choice but to respond with overwhelming force. Meanwhile, Frodo and Sam would approach Mount Doom from the south through paths Gollum had shown them, unnoticed, while all of Mordor's attention focused on the impossible Green Warrior smashing through their homeland. It was insane. It was desperate. It relied entirely on the Hulk's ability to withstand punishment that would obliterate conventional armies. But as Theoden pointed out, insane, desperate plans were all they had left. "When do we march?" the king asked. "Dawn," Aragorn said. "We gather what forces we can, we rest tonight, and at first light we begin what may be our final campaign." The Hulk looked toward the mountains of Mordor, visible even from Pelennor Fields as a dark smudge on the horizon. Somewhere beyond those peaks, a dark lord sat in his tower, confident in victory, certain that nothing could breach his defenses. The Gamma monster's smile widened. "Hulk ready," he said. "Bad guy not ready, bad guy never ready for Hulk." As the council dispersed, Gandalf approached the Hulk one final time. "I must ask, though I suspect the answer will trouble me. How did you come to our world? What force brought you through the dimensional barriers?" Banner's consciousness pushed forward, scientists' curiosity overriding rage temporarily. Portal unstable. Doctor Strange was experimenting, trying to seal breach, but something pulled, something wanted powerful being here, felt like... He struggled with the concept. Like universe needed balancing, too much evil, needed something to push back. Gandalf nodded slowly. "Eru works in mysterious ways. Perhaps your arrival was no accident but providence. Perhaps this world's creator saw Sauron's victory approaching and drew forth a champion from beyond our cosmology." The wizard's eyes twinkled. "Though I doubt even the Valar imagined quite so. Green a champion." That night, the Hulk sat outside Minas Tirith's walls, too large to fit comfortably in any building. He watched stars that weren't quite right, constellations that told stories he didn't know, and felt Banner's consciousness wrestling with the gamma radiation's endless fury. "We're really doing this," Banner's voice whispered in their shared mind. "Walking into Mordor, picking a fight with a dark god who's been alive since before human civilization existed. This is insane even by our standards." "Hulk not care about standards," the creature rumbled back. "Care about people. People here need help. Hulk helps. Is simple." "Nothing about you is simple," Banner replied, but there was warmth in the thought. "But yeah, we help. That's what heroes do." As the Gamma monster rested, preparing for the battle to come, he didn't notice the dark clouds gathering over Barad-dûr. Didn't see the eye of Sauron turning toward Minas Tirith, toward the city that should have fallen but now stood defiant. Didn't hear the Dark Lord's commands echoing through the minds of every servant in Mordor. But he would see the results soon enough. At dawn, the armies of men would march to war, and the Hulk would discover whether even the strongest there was could break an empire built on millennia of conquest and cruelty. The answer, delivered through fists and fury and gamma-powered destruction, would reshape Middle-earth forever. Dawn broke red over Minas Tirith, as if the sun itself bled at what was to come. The Hulk stood at the head of a column of 7,000 warriors, all that could be spared from the city's defense. Gondorian soldiers in their white and black, their faces set with grim determination. Rohirrim cavalry, their horses restless, sensing their riders' tension. Rangers from the north, woodsmen from the forests, even a contingent of elves that Legolas had somehow summoned overnight. And at the front, impossible to miss, 9 feet of green muscle that made the bravest veteran nervous. Aragorn addressed the army, his voice carrying through supernatural means Gandalf provided. Warriors of the West, we march to Mordor's gates not because we believe we can win, but because we must buy time for hope to survive. We march beside a champion from beyond our world, a creature of power we cannot fully comprehend. Some of you fear him, some worship him. I ask only that you trust him. The ranger turned to the Hulk, meeting those green eyes directly. Can you do this? Can you be what we need? The Hulk's response was to leap forward, covering 100 yards in a single bound, then turn back to the army. His roar shook the morning air. Hulk smash Dark Tower, who comes with Hulk? 7,000 voices answered, not with words, but with the clash of weapons on shields, with war cries in a dozen languages, with the thunder of hooves as cavalry began to move. The march had begun. They crossed Pelennor Fields, still marked by yesterday's battle. Orc bodies being gathered for burning, siege equipment being dismantled. Blood-soaked earth where thousands had died. The Hulk walked through it all with Banner's consciousness assessing, analyzing, remembering. This is what evil looks like when it loses, Banner's voice whispered in their shared mind. But Sauron has armies beyond counting, cities full of orcs, industrial war machines. We saw one battlefield. We're about to see the entire empire. Then we see it, the Hulk replied. Then we smash it. As they marched, Gandalf rode beside the Hulk, staff glowing with soft white light. I've been considering your abilities, studying what you accomplished yesterday. Your strength increases with anger, correct? The more enraged you become, the more powerful. Yeah, the Hulk grunted. Sometimes curse, sometimes gift, always Hulk. And is there a limit? The wizard pressed. A ceiling to how strong you can become? Banner's consciousness stirred at the question. It was something they'd debated internally for years. Scientists had tried to measure the Hulk's upper limits and failed. The madder he got, the stronger he got. But was there a theoretical maximum? Or could gamma rage escalate infinitely? Don't know, the Hulk admitted. Never hit limit. Always something makes Hulk angrier. Always something pushes harder. His massive hands clenched. Maybe no limit. Maybe limit is when universe breaks. Troubling thought, Gandalf muttered. Though perhaps useful. Sauron believes in absolutes, in measurable power and hierarchies of strength. He won't expect an opponent whose power is literally limitless given sufficient provocation. They marched for 3 days, covering ground that should have taken a week. The Hulk set the pace, tireless, driven by gamma energy that needed no rest. Behind him, the army struggled to keep up, sustained by Gondorian supply wagons and Gandalf's subtle magic-boosting endurance. On the second day, they encountered resistance. A patrol of 500 orcs emerging from the foothills, accompanied by 3 war trolls. The patrol's leader took one look at the approaching army and the green giant at its head, and made the tactically sound decision to flee. The Hulk was faster. He caught the patrol within minutes, his leaping strides covering ground no horse could match. The orcs turned to fight, realizing escape was impossible. It was brief and brutal. The Hulk tore through them like a child, destroying sandcastles, each strike pulverizing armor and bone. The war trolls tried to gang up on him, their coordination suggesting professional training. The Hulk ripped one troll's arm off and beat the other 2 to death with it. When Aragorn's forces arrived, the battle was over. 500 orcs reduced to broken bodies, 3 trolls cooling in the afternoon sun, and the Hulk standing in the center, barely scratched, his chest heaving not from exertion but from the struggle to maintain control. "Good," Banner's voice forced through. "Controlled, didn't chase fleeing enemies, stopped when threat ended. Good." That night they camped within sight of the Black Mountains, Mordor's outer ring. Soldiers shared stories around campfires, speculation about what awaited beyond those peaks mixing with nervous jokes. The Hulk sat apart, too large for human scale, watching flames with eyes that saw gamma radiation dancing in every spark. Eowyn approached, the shield maiden who'd slain the Witch King in the original timeline, now alive and curious about the creature who'd accomplished the same feat. She carried 2 wooden bowls of stew, offering one to the Hulk. He took it, the bowl comically small in his massive hand. "Thanks." She sat nearby, not too close, respecting his space. "You saved my uncle yesterday. Theoden King would have died in the Witch King's shadow had you not intervened. Our entire people owe you their survival." "Hulk protect," he said simply, "is what Hulk does." "But why?" Eowyn pressed. "You're not of this world. You owe us nothing. Yet you fight beside us, face death for strangers. Why?" Banner's consciousness rose, giving coherence to the answer. Because Hulk knows what it's like, being different, being feared, being alone." The words came slowly, painfully. Hulk was made, gamma bomb, accident, Banner's life destroyed, made into monster. His green eyes met hers, but then learned, not monster, hero, can protect people, can save people, can be good. The struggle between Banner and Hulk created something almost like tears, though the gamma physiology wouldn't allow it. "Here in your world, nobody knows Hulk, nobody's scared before meeting, just see strength, see help. Maybe here, Hulk is hero first, monster second." Eowyn was silent for a moment. Then she raised her bowl in salute. "To heroes, then, whatever form they take." They drank together, warrior and monster, under stars that had watched Middle-earth's long defeat and might soon witness its impossible salvation. The Black Gate stood before them on the 4th day, massive beyond reason, carved from mountain stone and reinforced with dark iron standing 200 feet tall. Behind it, the armies of Mordor waited. Through the gaps in the gate, they could see ranks of orcs stretching to the horizon, war machines positioned on every available piece of ground, trolls and other creatures they had no names for. Aragorn, now revealed as Isildur's heir and bearing the reforged sword and Andúril, rode forward with his captains. Gandalf at his right, the Hulk at his left. They stopped 100 yards from the gate, close enough to be heard, far enough to avoid immediate attack. "Sauron!" Aragorn's voice carried through the morning air, amplified by Gandalf's magic. "Lord of Mordor, dark power of the east, I am Aragorn, son of Arathorn, heir to the throne of Gondor. I come to demand your surrender." The demand was absurd, obviously impossible, designed to provoke response. From atop the Black Gate, a figure appeared. The mouth of Sauron, lieutenant to the Dark Lord, his face mutilated beyond humanity by centuries of dark sorcery. When he spoke, his voice dripped with contempt. "Surrender. The Dark Lord offers you surrender, king of ruins, wizard of failure," and his gaze fell on the Hulk, and for the first time, uncertainty flickered across his grotesque features. "Whatever that green abomination might be, lay down your weapons, open your cities, bow before Sauron's might. He may permit you to live as slaves." "Counteroffer," the Hulk rumbled. "Open gate, leave. Hulk might not smash all of you." The mouth of Sauron laughed, a sound like nails on glass. "The Dark Lord has prepared for this moment. Your armies are insignificant. Your champions are doomed. And your green monster?" The lieutenant's smile widened. Sauron has broken stronger things than you. He will unmake you, study you, learn what you are, and create armies of your like to conquer worlds beyond this one." "Wrong answer," the Hulk said. He charged. The distance to the gate was 100 yards. The Hulk covered it in 3 seconds, building speed with each stride. The mouth of Sauron had just enough time to realize his mistake before the green giant leaped, both fists extended, hitting the black gate with the full force of gamma-powered momentum. The gate, which had stood for millennia, which had repelled armies and siege weapons and the wrath of Gondor's strongest warriors, exploded inward. Not cracked, not dented, exploded. Tons of stone and iron launched backward into Mordor's army, crushing orcs, demolishing war machines, creating a 50-foot breach where an impregnable barrier had stood. The Hulk landed in a crouch, surrounded by hundreds of enemies, dust still settling from the gate's destruction. Every orc, every troll, every servant of Sauron stared in shocked silence at what had just happened. "Hulk, open gate!" the creature roared. "Now, Hulk, smash army!" Behind him, Aragorn raised Andúril. "For Frodo!" 7,000 warriors charged through the breach, following the impossible champion into the heart of darkness itself. The Battle of the Black Gate had begun, but unlike the battle in the original timeline, where desperate men held against overwhelming odds, hoping merely to buy time, this battle had something different. It had the Hulk, and Mordor was about to learn what that meant. The first wave of orcs broke against him like water against stone. The Hulk waded into them, each punch killing 3 or 4, his fists moving faster than conventional eyes could track. Armor meant nothing, numbers meant nothing. The orcs weren't fighting a warrior, they were fighting a natural disaster given semi-human form. An orc captain, braver or stupider than most, thrust a spear at the Hulk's throat. The blade shattered on impact. The Hulk grabbed the captain by his face and threw him at the advancing army. The body traveled 100 yards before landing, taking down a dozen soldiers in its path. War trolls approached, a dozen of them coordinating their assault. They'd been trained to fight together, to overwhelm opponents through synchronized attacks. The Hulk jumped straight up, clearing 30 feet, then came down on the lead troll with both feet. The creature's spine shattered. Before the corpse hit the ground, the Hulk was moving, using the dead troll's body as a springboard to launch himself at the next. He landed fist first in the second troll's face. Skull fragments exploded outward. The Hulk grabbed the falling body and spun, using the troll as a club to batter 3 more to death. Then he threw the corpse at the remaining trolls, following immediately behind it. The last troll actually turned to flee. The Hulk caught it, grabbed both its arms, and pulled. The troll came apart at the shoulder joints, its roar of agony cut short as the Hulk used the dismembered arms to batter it to death. Around him, the army of the West fought desperately. Gondorian soldiers formed shield walls, holding against orc charges. Rohirrim cavalry harried the flanks, preventing encirclement. Legolas's arrows found eyes and throats with preternatural accuracy. Gimli's axe rose and fell in bloody rhythm, and Aragorn fought like the king he was, Andúril gleaming with light that made orcs recoil. But it was the Hulk who turned the tide. Everywhere he appeared, enemy formations collapsed. He didn't just kill enemies. He destroyed their will to fight. Orcs who'd never known fear now fled at his approach. Creatures bred for warfare in the deepest pits of Isengard took one look at the green giant and chose death by their own officers' blades over facing him. From the walls of Barad-dûr, the eye of Sauron watched. The Dark Lord's consciousness focused entirely on this impossible intruder, trying to understand, to classify, to find weakness. But the Hulk operated on physics outside Middle-earth's rules. His power came not from the song of creation, but from gamma radiation, from nuclear fire, from a force Sauron had no frame of reference for. The Dark Lord made a decision. If conventional armies couldn't stop this creature, unconventional means were required. The ground split open. Not earthquake, not accident. Deliberate dimensional manipulation as Sauron tore holes in reality itself, pulling creatures from the deepest voids, from the spaces between worlds where things that shouldn't exist waited for summons. They emerged, nameless things, creatures that had dwelt in the dark places of Middle-earth since before the sun and moon, that were ancient when Morgoth first corrupted the world, that even Sauron didn't fully control but merely directed. Tentacles and teeth and geometries that hurt to perceive. One rose before the Hulk, a mass of writhing appendages surrounding mouths that led to nowhere. It grabbed him with a dozen tentacles simultaneously, each one strong enough to crush stone, and began pulling, trying to tear the Gamma monster apart through sheer distributed force. The Hulk roared, not in pain. The creature's strength, impressive as it was, wasn't enough to truly hurt him. He roared in rage at being grabbed, at being restrained, at something daring to think it could break him. Gamma radiation pulsed. The Hulk's muscles expanded, his already massive frame growing larger, denser, more powerful. The transformation that had started in New Mexico and never truly finished intensified. He was getting madder, and the madder he got, the stronger he got. His muscles bulged, swelling with power that violated conservation of mass. The tentacles holding him began to strain, their grip weakening as the Hulk's frame exceeded their tensile strength capacity. He grabbed two tentacles with his massive hands and pulled, tearing them free from the creature's body. Ichor sprayed. The nameless thing screamed in a frequency that shattered glass in Minas Tirith 30 miles away. The Hulk used the torn tentacles as whips, lashing at the creature, driving it back. Then he charged, leaping into the mass of writhing flesh and began tearing it apart from the inside. Tentacles grabbed at him. Mouths tried to bite. Acidic secretions that could dissolve steel washed over him. The Hulk ignored it all. He punched through flesh that defied anatomy, ripped through organs that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, and emerged from the other side covered in ichor but otherwise unharmed. Behind him, the nameless thing collapsed, its essence unmaking, unable to maintain cohesion after such catastrophic damage. But there were more. 3 others emerging from different rifts, converging on the Hulk's position. Gandalf saw them and understood immediately what Sauron intended. These creatures couldn't be killed by conventional means. They were too ancient, too primal. The Dark Lord was trying to trap the Hulk, to bog him down fighting unkillable horrors while regular forces overwhelmed the human army. "Hulk!" Gandalf's voice cut through the battle. "The rifts! Close the rifts and the creatures have no anchor!" The Gamma monster's head snapped toward the wizard. Banner's consciousness processed the information, understanding the tactic. "Close! How close? Hit them! Your power disrupts magic. Force them shut!" The Hulk grinned. He liked hitting things. He charged toward the nearest rift, ignoring the nameless thing emerging from it. The creature tried to grab him, but the Hulk was moving too fast, building momentum with each stride. He leaped at the last moment, fist extended, hitting the dimensional tear with everything he had. Gamma radiation met Sauron's sorcery at the point of impact. The rift screamed, actually screamed, as conflicting energies clashed. The Hulk's power, rooted in nuclear physics and quantum mechanics, crashed against Middle-earth's magic, based on the Song of Creation and the Ainur's will. Neither completely overwhelmed the other, but the collision created instability. The rift collapsed. The nameless thing, losing its anchor to this dimension, was pulled back into the void, its tentacles clawing desperately at reality as it disappeared. "Work!" the Hulk roared, triumphant. He turned toward the next rift. "Hulk, close all bad holes!" For the next 10 minutes, the Battle of the Black Gate transformed into something unprecedented. While armies clashed around him, the Hulk systematically destroyed dimensional rifts, punching holes in reality closed through sheer physical force backed by gamma radiation that operated on different cosmic laws than Middle-earth's magic. Sauron watched from Barad-dûr, his consciousness reeling. This shouldn't be possible. The creature had no magical ability, no connection to the Aenor's power, yet it was disrupting sorcery that had taken millennia to master through pure physical violence. It was like watching someone solve mathematical equations by hitting them with a hammer until the numbers changed. The Dark Lord needed a new strategy. If conventional force and unconventional horrors both failed, perhaps corruption would succeed. The One Ring's power was diminished with the ring itself still existing but distant, yet Sauron's ability to manipulate minds remained formidable. He reached out with his consciousness, focusing on the green creature, seeking weaknesses in its psyche. And found them. Oh, there were so many. Guilt over people the Hulk had accidentally killed during rampages, rage at his creation, at Banner's accident. Fear of losing control permanently, self-loathing at what he'd become. Loneliness from being feared by the very people he protected. Sauron whispered through the darkness, his voice sliding into the Hulk's mind like poison. You are alone. Always alone. They fear you, they use you, but they never accept you. Here you could be free. No more pretending to be hero, no more holding back. I could give you a realm to destroy, armies to smash, endless war and chaos. Isn't that what you truly want? For a moment the Hulk wavered. The offer touched something deep within. The part that was tired of restraint. Tired of always being the monster everyone wanted gone after the crisis ended. But then Banner's consciousness surged forward, speaking to the Hulk directly. No, that's not what we want. That's what they think we want. But we know better. We've been there, remember? The Maestro timeline. Future where Hulk gave in, where we stopped holding back. We became everything they feared. We became the monster. But was strong, the Hulk muttered, was strongest. Was alone, Banner countered. Was hated. Was everything we swore never to be. Remember Rick Jones? Betty? Heroes we fought beside? In that future they all died, some by our hand. Is that strength? Is that what strongest there is means? The internal debate raged while the Hulk's body kept moving on instinct, smashing orcs, closing rifts, fighting the battle his consciousness was distracted from. And in that moment of internal conflict, Sauron struck with full force. Dark energy, the concentrated will of a being who'd corrupted entire civilizations, slammed into the Hulk's mind. Not physical attack, pure psychic assault designed to break wills and reshape them. It hit Banner's consciousness like a tidal wave, trying to drown reason, amplify rage, transform the Hulk from hero to weapon. Banner screamed. Not physically, his body didn't make a sound, but psychically, his consciousness fragmenting under the assault. And as Banner weakened, the Hulk's rage intensified, losing the last restraints that kept it from becoming truly destructive. The transformation accelerated, the Hulk's body expanded, muscles growing beyond any previous limit. His skin darkened from green to almost black-green, veins standing out like cables. His eyes, normally showing some hint of intelligence, became pure gamma fire. And his roar when it came wasn't words but primal fury incarnate. Aragorn saw the change from 100 yards away. Fall back! Everyone, fall back from the Hulk, now! The army of the West retreated, scrambling away from the Gamma monster who no longer distinguished between friend and foe. The Hulk lashed out at everything. An orc died. A Gondorian soldier barely dodged. A war machine was torn apart. The ground itself cracked under his blows as he vented rage without direction or purpose. This is what happens when you push too hard, Gandalf said grimly, his staff glowing as he prepared containment spells. When you offer a choice between hero and the monster wins. But deep within the Hulk's fragmenting consciousness, something resisted. A memory, a promise. Words spoken years ago after a particularly destructive rampage. I'm not a monster, I'm not just rage, I'm both, I'm Banner and Hulk. And together we're a hero. It was a child's voice in the memory. Rick Jones, the kid who'd been at ground zero of the Gamma bomb. Who'd somehow befriended the Hulk when everyone else ran. Rick, who'd looked at the monster and seen a person worth saving. Together, Banner's consciousness whispered, using the last of its coherence. Not Banner controlling Hulk, not Hulk drowning Banner. Together, like we promised, like we practiced. The Hulk's rampage slowed. His fists, raised to smash indiscriminately, trembled. The pure gamma fire in his eyes flickered, showing hints of green, of awareness, of choice. Together, the Hulk growled, forcing the word through bestial fury. Banner and Hulk, together, hero. The transformation stabilized. His size remained massive, larger than he'd ever been, but control returned. Intelligence sparked behind the rage. He looked around at the army backing away, at Gandalf's defensive spells, at Aragorn's hand on his sword. Hulk okay, the creature said, his voice steadier despite the enhanced size. Hulk in control, Hulk choose hero. He turned toward Barad-dûr, toward the dark tower where Sauron watched, and roared his defiance. Hulk not weapon, Hulk not slave, Hulk is Hulk, and Hulk smash tower now. He began walking toward the dark tower, each step covering 20 feet, his determination absolute. The armies of Mordor tried to stop him. Thousands of orcs threw themselves in his path. War machines fired. Catapults launched stones the size of houses. Trebuchets hurled flaming projectiles. The Hulk walked through it all. Orcs were trampled or scattered. Projectiles bounced off gamma-hardened skin or were caught and thrown back. Nothing stopped his advance. Nothing slowed him. He was an irresistible force incarnate, proving that objects claiming immovability could, in fact, be moved if you hit them hard enough. Behind him, Aragorn rallied the army. The Hulk has chosen his path, we choose ours. While Sauron focuses on him, we destroy his armies. No orc leaves this battlefield alive. For Gondor, for Rohan, for Middle-earth. The army of the West surged forward, inspired by the Hulk's defiance. They fought with renewed vigor, cutting through orc ranks that were now confused, leaderless, their attention split between the conventional army and the unstoppable green force marching toward their fortress. The Hulk reached Barad-dûr's outer walls within an hour, having crossed terrain that should have taken days. The walls stood 400 feet tall, built from materials that predated the current age of the world, reinforced with sorcery that had withstood the wrath of the last alliance. The Hulk punched it. The first blow cracked the wall. Stone that had stood for millennia developed fault lines. The second blow widened the cracks. Segments of wall began to shift. The third blow punched through entirely, creating a gap 30 feet wide. The Hulk entered Barad-dûr. Inside was a nightmare of dark architecture and trapped souls. Orcs swarmed from every corridor. Sauron's elite guard, the largest and most vicious of Mordor's warriors, charged in formation. Sorcerers unleashed spells designed to unmake flesh and break minds. Bound spirits enslaved to Sauron's will attacked from multiple dimensions simultaneously. The Hulk fought through them all. Each corridor became a charnel house, each chamber a monument to his fury. He climbed the tower by simply smashing through floors, punching upward through stone and iron and magic, creating his own path when conventional routes were blocked. Sauron watched his fortress being systematically demolished from within and made his final calculation. The ring hadn't been destroyed. He would have felt that immediately, which meant Frodo had either failed or was still approaching Mount Doom. The Dark Lord couldn't risk leaving his physical anchor undefended to deal with this intruder. But he also couldn't allow the creature to reach the top of Barad-dûr. he compromised. Sauron manifested partially, creating a physical avatar while maintaining his connection to the eye atop the tower. It appeared before the Hulk on the tower's halfway point, in a chamber large enough to contain their battle. The avatar stood 20 feet tall, armored in black metal that seemed to absorb light, wielding a mace that had shattered mountains. Sauron's voice, when he spoke, carried the weight of ages. "You have proven stronger than anticipated, creature. But strength alone cannot defeat a will that has endured since the world's creation. I am Sauron. I am inevitable. And you are merely flesh, however enhanced." The Hulk looked up at the avatar, then grinned. Hulk fought bigger. Hulk fought gods. Hulk fought guy who collected all Infinity Stones. He cracked his knuckles, the sound like thunder. You just bad guy in tower. Hulk loves smashing towers." They charged simultaneously. Sauron's mace swung down with force that would have leveled buildings. The Hulk caught it one-handed. The impact created a shockwave that shattered every window in the chamber, but the Hulk's arm held firm. He pulled, yanking the Dark Lord off balance, then drove his fist into the avatar's chest. The armor dented. Sauron's eyes widened fractionally, his first genuine surprise in millennia. The Hulk hit him again, and again. Each blow landing with the force of artillery shells, each impact driving the Dark Lord back across the chamber. Sauron unleashed sorcery, dark flames that had consumed armies. The Hulk walked through them, his gamma-mutated physiology adapting, resisting, surviving. The Dark Lord tried mind control, attempting to turn the Hulk's rage against himself, but Banner's consciousness, now working in harmony with the Hulk rather than fighting him, provided just enough stability to resist. They grappled 20 feet of dark power against 9 feet of green fury. The chamber floor cracked beneath them, support pillars collapsed, the entire tower trembled. "You cannot win," Sauron hissed, his mace finally connecting with the Hulk's head. The blow would have pulverized a mountain. The Hulk staggered but didn't fall. "I am eternal. I am—" "Talk too much." The Hulk's roar drowned out Sauron's words. He grabbed the Dark Lord's mace arm and broke it. The limb shattered at the elbow, dark energy spilling out like blood. The Avatar screamed. The Hulk didn't stop. He grabbed Sauron's helmet and tore it free, revealing the Dark Lord's face, beautiful and terrible, ancient and malevolent, showing millennium of accumulated cruelty. Then he punched that face with every ounce of strength his gamma-enhanced body could generate. The Avatar exploded. Not metaphorically, literally exploded into fragments of dark energy and scattered matter. Sauron's consciousness was forcibly ejected back into the eye, his physical manifestation utterly destroyed. The Hulk stood in the ruins of the chamber, chest heaving, fists still clenched. Around him, Barad-dûr began to shake more violently. The tower's structural integrity, compromised by the battle and the Hulk's ascent, was failing. "Hulk win!" the creature roared at the ceiling, at the eye that watched from above. "Hulk strongest! Hulk break tower! Hulk break bad guy!" And then, from impossibly far away but somehow perfectly clear, he felt it. A sensation like the universe exhaling, like chains breaking, like darkness being burned away by sudden light. The ring had been destroyed. Frodo had succeeded. Sauron's scream echoed across Middle-earth as his power, anchored to the One Ring, began to unravel. The eye atop Barad-dûr flickered, its gaze no longer absolute. The Dark Lord's consciousness, split between maintaining his fortress and his armies and his very existence, couldn't withstand the ring's destruction. He fell. Not physically. Sauron had no true physical form left, but metaphysically. His will, which had dominated the East for millennia, shattered. His consciousness, which had orchestrated the corruption of entire civilizations, fragmented. His power, which had seemed infinite and eternal, dissipated like smoke in a hurricane. And Barad-dûr, built by that power and sustained by it, began to collapse. The Hulk felt the tower falling around him. He looked up at the disintegrating ceiling, then made a decision. He could survive the collapse, probably. His durability was legendary. But the armies outside, the warriors of men who'd followed him here, they wouldn't survive if the tower fell outward, crushing everything in its path. He crouched, every muscle in his massive body tensing, then leaped upward with all his strength. The jump carried him through 3 more floors, each one crumbling as he passed, racing the collapse. He burst through the top of the tower, through the space where the eye had burned, and emerged into open air 100 feet above the highest point. At the apex of his jump, he looked down. Barad-dûr was imploding, falling inward, dark power consuming itself. The armies of Mordor were scattering, leaderless, purposeless, their absolute certainty shattered along with their master's will. And in the distance he could see the army of the West, victorious, watching as the symbol of their oppression destroyed itself. The Hulk began to fall. He twisted in midair, positioning himself to land outside the collapse radius. The ground rushed up. He hit with enough force to create a crater visible from miles away, but he stood immediately, unharmed, surrounded by the rubble of Sauron's empire. Silence fell across Mordor. The battle was over. Evil had fallen. Middle-earth was saved, and standing in the wreckage of Barad-dûr, covered in dust and ichor and the accumulated damage of fighting through an entire fortress, the Hulk raised his fists to the sky and roared his victory. "Hulk strongest there is!" The sound echoed across the black land, carrying to the army of the West, to the fleeing remnants of Mordor's forces, to Frodo and Sam staggering away from Mount Doom to every corner of Middle-earth where free peoples waited to learn their fate. And they heard. And they knew. Against all odds, against impossible opposition, they had won. Not through prophecy, not through predestined victory, but through courage and sacrifice and one very angry green warrior who'd refused to accept that evil was inevitable. The Hulk looked down at his hands, at the gamma radiation still crackling across his skin, then felt Banner's consciousness rise to full awareness. "We did it," Banner whispered in their shared mind. "We actually did it." "Of course did it," the Hulk rumbled back, a note of satisfaction in his voice. "Hulk always wins, because Hulk is hero." In the distance, he saw figures approaching. Gandalf, Aragorn, the surviving warriors of men, all converging on his position. They would have questions, celebration. Probably want to make him a hero of Middle-earth, give him honors and titles that meant nothing to someone from another dimension. But for this moment, standing in the ruins of evil's stronghold, having proven that mercy and strength could coexist, that rage could be righteous, that monsters could choose to be heroes, the Hulk allowed himself to feel something rare. Peace. It wouldn't last, it never did. But for now, it was enough. The aftermath of Sauron's fall transformed Middle-earth overnight. Without the Dark Lord's will holding them together, his armies scattered. Orcs fled into the mountains where most would die from exposure or infighting within weeks. Trolls, their intelligence too limited for independent survival, simply stopped moving, becoming stone statues that would puzzle future generations. The Nazgûl, already weakened by the Witch-king's destruction, dissolved entirely when the ring unmade. The Hulk spent the first day after the battle sitting outside the ruins of the Black Gate, watching as Middle-earth's defenders processed their impossible victory. Gondorian soldiers sang. Rohirrim warriors wept openly. Even the elves, ancient and restrained, allowed themselves shows of joy they'd denied for millennia. Gandalf approached eventually, his staff dim now, exhaustion evident despite his Maiar nature. "I've lived through 3 ages of the world. I've witnessed the fall of kingdoms and the rise of heroes, but I've never seen anything like what you accomplished." The wizard sat beside the Hulk, or as near as one could sit beside a 9-foot gamma monster. "You broke through Mordor's gates, destroyed Barad-dûr from within, and defeated Sauron's avatar in single combat. Songs will be sung of this for 10,000 years. Hulk just did job," the creature rumbled. "Smashed bad guy, protected people is what heroes do." "Indeed, though your definition of smashing is rather more literal than most." Gandalf's eyes held ancient wisdom and new curiosity. "But I must ask, what will you do now? The battle is won. The Dark Lord has fallen. Your purpose here is fulfilled." Banner's consciousness rose, giving coherence to complex thoughts. "Need to go home. My world needs Hulk too. Has own bad guys, own people to protect." He looked at his massive green hands. "But part of Hulk wants to stay. Here, nobody knew Hulk before. Nobody feared before meeting. Was just hero." "You were always a hero," Gandalf said gently. "The fear others showed came from ignorance, not truth. But I understand the desire. Here, you were defined by your actions, not your appearance." The wizard stood, bones creaking. "Whenever you choose to leave, know that Middle-earth owes you a debt beyond repayment." Over the next 3 days, as armies marched back to Minas Tirith and refugees returned to destroyed homes, the Hulk found himself in an unusual position. He was celebrated. Children approached without fear, asking to touch his green skin. Warriors sought his advice on combat. Even Éowyn, who'd initially been wary, now treated him with respect bordering on admiration. Aragorn, preparing for his coronation as King of Gondor, offered the Hulk lands and titles. "You saved this realm. You deserve recognition, reward, whatever honor we can bestow." "Hulk doesn't need titles," the creature replied. "Just needed to help, but..." He paused, unusual hesitation showing. "Hulk thanks you for treating like hero, not like monster." "Because that's what you are," Aragorn said simply. "A hero. Perhaps the greatest who ever walked Middle-earth." On the 4th day, Frodo and Sam finally arrived in Minas Tirith, carried by eagles after their collapse on Mount Doom. The hobbits were emaciated, traumatized, bearing wounds that might never fully heal. But alive. The Hulk met them in the houses of healing, having to crouch to fit through the doorway. Frodo looked up at the massive green figure and smiled weakly. "So you're the one who smashed everything while we snuck around," Gandalf told us, "said you bought us the time we needed." "Hulk distract," the creature agreed. "You destroy. Both needed. Both heroes." Sam studied the Hulk with farmer's practicality. "You're a lot bigger than I expected. Gandalf's stories didn't do you justice." He extended a hand. "Thank you. For everything." The Hulk carefully took the hobbit's hand with thumb and forefinger, terrified of crushing it. "Welcome is what heroes do. Help each other." That night, Gandalf approached with news. "I've been consulting with Saruman's confiscated notes. The wizard was studying dimensional rifts before his corruption. I believe I can open a portal to send you home." The wizard's expression was grave. "But I must warn you, the passage will be unpleasant, and I cannot guarantee where or when you'll emerge in your world. Dimensional navigation isn't precise." "Hulk can handle unpleasant," Banner's voice emerged. "Done it before. Getting home is important. People there need us too. When do you wish to leave?" The Hulk looked around at the city, preparing for celebration, at people he'd fought beside, at a world he'd helped save. Part of him wanted to stay, to experience being hero first and monster second. But Banner's consciousness provided clarity. Have responsibilities. Have people who depend on us, can't abandon them, even for place where we're accepted. He stood, his massive frame blocking moonlight. Tomorrow. Hulk leaves tomorrow. Gandalf nodded slowly. Then tonight, allow Middle-earth to thank you properly. The farewell feast was held in Minas Tirith's great hall, hastily repaired for the occasion. Tables groaned with food and drink. Warriors from every allied nation attended. Gondorians, Rohirrim, elves, dwarves, even hobbits who'd traveled from the Shire. And at the head table, seated in a specially reinforced chair, the Hulk. Aragorn, not yet crowned but already showing kingly bearing, raised his cup. To our heroes, to Frodo who bore the burden none other could carry, to Gandalf whose wisdom guided us, to all who fought at Pelennor and the Black Gate, and to the Hulk, the green warrior from beyond our world who proved that strength and mercy are not opposites but companions. The hall erupted in cheers. The Hulk sat uncomfortably, unused to positive attention, unsure how to process being celebrated rather than feared. Gimli approached, already deep in his cups. Lad, or whatever you are, I've killed my share of enemies, but watching you work was something special. Tearing trolls apart, using orcs as clubs, punching through dimensional rifts. That's artistry, that is, Legolas added with typical elven restraint. Your technique lacks grace, but your effectiveness is undeniable. Perhaps inelegance has deeper merit than I previously acknowledged. Even the hobbits joined, Merry and Pippin presenting the Hulk with a specially made pipe, sized appropriately. We figure even heroes from other worlds deserve a good smoke, Pippin said cheerfully. The Hulk held the pipe carefully, worried about breaking it. Hulk doesn't smoke, but thanks. We'll keep. Remember, friends. As the celebration continued, the Hulk stepped outside, needing air despite not technically requiring oxygen in human amounts. He stood on a balcony overlooking Minas Tirith, the white city gleaming under stars that would always be foreign to him. Éowyn found him there. Leaving tomorrow, I hear. Have to. Otherworld needs Hulk. They're fortunate then, though I wonder if they appreciate what they have. She leaned against the balcony railing. You showed me something important. I wanted to be a warrior because I thought strength meant not needing anyone. But you're the strongest being I've ever seen, and you still fight for others, still protect, still choose to be gentle when you could be destructive. That's real strength. Hulk learned hard way, he admitted. Tried being just strong, tried smashing everything, made things worse. Banner's consciousness provided eloquence. Real strength is choosing control over rage, choosing protection over destruction, choosing to be hero even when being monster is easier. They stood in companionable silence, watching the city celebrate its salvation. Dawn came cold and clear. Gandalf had spent the night preparing, drawing symbols in the courtyard, channeling power from sources the Hulk couldn't identify. The wizard looked ancient now, drained by the effort of manipulating dimensional barriers. The portal is ready, Gandalf said. Step through and you should emerge in your own world, though as I warned, I cannot guarantee precisely where or when. The Hulk stood at the portal's edge, looking back at the gathered crowd. Aragorn with his hand on Andúril. Legolas and Gimli standing together despite millennial of racial tension. Éowyn with her sword and newfound understanding. Frodo and Sam, bearing rings of their own trauma but alive. And Gandalf, the wizard who'd trusted him despite every logical reason not to. Hulk had good time here, the creature said, his voice carrying to everyone present. Learned things about strength, about being hero, about choosing. He thumped his chest with one massive fist. We'll remember. We'll always remember friends who saw hero first, monster second. We'll remember you too, Aragorn replied. Remember the green warrior who saved Middle-earth when all hope seemed lost. Go with our gratitude, Hulk, and know that if you ever return, you'll be welcomed as the hero you are." The Hulk nodded, then turned to the portal. He could see swirling energies, dimensions collapsing and expanding, the pathway home twisting through realities that shouldn't coexist. It would be unpleasant, painful probably. But home waited. Earth waited. People who needed him, who'd learned to accept him despite his nature, who saw both Banner and Hulk as necessary parts of a complicated whole. "Hulk, go home!" he roared, then leaped into the portal. The dimensional transit was worse than anything he'd experienced. Reality twisted around him, trying to categorize him, to understand what he was. Gamma radiation clashed with Middle-earth's magic, both trying to maintain coherence. His body was stretched, compressed, unmade, and remade 1,000 times in the space between heartbeats. But the Hulk endured. Because that's what he did. He endured. He emerged in an explosion of green energy, cratering concrete, setting off car alarms for 6 blocks. The Hulk rose slowly, his head spinning, his body reorienting to Earth's physics. He looked around, recognizing landmarks. New York. He was in New York. And judging by the intact buildings and lack of alien invasion debris, he'd arrived shortly after he'd left. "Hulk!" a familiar voice called. He turned to see Iron Man hovering, repulsors charged. "Where the hell have you been? You disappeared 3 days ago. We've been searching." Banner's consciousness surged forward, finally able to communicate clearly. Tony had adventure, different world, long story, need to... The transformation began reversing, gamma radiation receding. The Hulk shrank, features softening, green skin fading to tan. Bruce Banner collapsed, naked and exhausted, in the middle of a New York street. Tony landed immediately, armor retracting, throwing his jacket over Bruce. "Jesus, Banner, you look like you went 10 rounds with Thor. What happened?" Bruce looked up at his teammate, at the familiar skyline, at the world he'd fought to return to. Then he smiled, exhausted but genuine. "Saved the world, different world. Met wizards and kings and fought a dark lord in his tower." He closed his eyes. "And for once, Tony, for once they saw me as the hero first." Tony helped him up, supporting his weight. "Well, yeah, you're always the hero. Took you long enough to figure that out." As they walked toward the waiting Quinjet, as SHIELD agents scrambled to explain the crater and energy signature, Bruce felt something settle inside him. The journey to Middle-earth had taught him what he'd always known but never believed. The Hulk wasn't the monster. The Hulk was the hero, and being the strongest there is meant protecting the innocent, no matter what world they lived in, no matter what dimension needed saving. Somewhere, in another reality, in a white city under stars, a wizard stood on a balcony and smiled. He'd sensed the portal's successful completion, felt the Gamma warrior return home safely. Middle-earth would never forget its green champion. And perhaps that was the true gift, not just saving the world, but proving that heroes came in all forms, from all places, defined not by appearance, but by choice. Gandalf raised his staff in silent salute, honoring a warrior from beyond creation who'd reminded them all what heroism truly meant. And in New York, as Bruce Banner debriefed the Avengers about his interdimensional adventure, the Hulk's consciousness stirred with satisfaction. They'd saved 2 worlds now, protected countless lives, proven their worth beyond doubt. But the Gamma monster knew the truth. There would always be another battle, another threat, another chance to prove that strength and mercy could coexist, that rage could be righteous, that the strongest there is was also a hero. And the Hulk was ready. Whatever came next, wherever the universe sent him, the Hulk would face it the same way he'd faced Sauron, the same way he'd faced every challenge since that fateful day at the Gamma bomb testing site, with fists ready to smash evil, with a choice to be a hero. And with the absolute certainty that no bad guy, no Dark Lord, no cosmic threat would ever be strong enough to break the will of someone who'd chosen to protect rather than destroy. The Hulk was the strongest there is. And that strength included the wisdom to be gentle, the courage to show mercy, and the conviction to be a hero even when being a monster would be easier. Middle-earth had learned that lesson. Now the rest of the multiverse would too. Because wherever there was evil, wherever innocent people needed protection, wherever tyrants thought their power made them invincible, the Hulk would be there. Smashing, protecting, proving. Always the hero, always the strongest there is, always the Hulk.